Alright, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about the time Dave Chappelle got called out by this other comedian, Bob Levy, because he thought Dave stole one of his jokes and used it in Chappelle's show. So he decided to bring it up to him when he had a chance, and it ended up being a disaster, and Bob was never really able to live it down. And I'm sure most people aren't that familiar with him. You know, he hasn't really had the best career as a comedian, but he's mostly known for being on the Stern Show in the 2000s, and he was Artie Lange's opener for a while he was still on the show. But this caused a rift in their relationship because Artie initially told Bob not to bring this up to Dave, like he knew it'd be a bad look. But I guess Bob just didn't want to listen, so next time Dave was on the Stern Show, he decided to call in and bring this up to him. And it pretty much went how Artie thought it would. You know, this is why he didn't want him to bring it up. So he didn't defend him at all, and he kind of took Dave's side afterwards and just kept making fun of Bob for the whole thing, which he didn't handle very well. But Artie's the one that tried to warn him about it, you know, because the joke that he claims Dave stole from him isn't very original. Like, it's been around forever, and you wouldn't think a comedian would claim that they came up with it, or they'd want to claim they came up with it, because it's just a hacky joke. You know, it's something you'd expect to hear from like a 50-year-old failed comedian, which is pretty much what Bob is. But the joke he claims he wrote, like he's the first comedian to come up with this, is, "I'm going to beat my meat like it owes me money." I guess Bob Levy is the first person to think of that. You know, that's his claim to fame. He says he's been saying it since, I think, the early 90s, maybe late 80s. And he says he's always been using it as his opening line. So it sounds like he's a really talented comedian. You know, Chappelle, he would only steal from the best. But Bob wasn't too happy about it. You know, he wasn't flattered. And Artie, he was trying to talk some sense into him. He's like, "Dude, are you sure you came up with that?"
I'm being honest with him. I say, look, I don't think you have a good argument in this. The Dave Chappelle joke that he claimed Dave Chappelle on his show ripped off a joke that Bob wrote. Levy and me, a few days after it aired, had a gig together, and he goes, "Yeah, I'm furious with Chappelle. He stole one of my jokes on his show." And I go, "What joke?" And he goes, "Well, you know, the joke
Beat your dick,
yeah." And I said, "Bob, listen, man, I don't know if you should fight this battle." And he's like, "Why? What are you talking about?" I don't. Are you sure you wrote that joke? I said, "That sounds like one of those public domain type." You know what I mean?
Sounds old.
And then he got. It sounds like, you know, it was at the first ever Friars Club dinner they were using that. And he's like, "No." And I saw he was very defensive about the fact that he wrote that joke. And then I said, "Well, listen, Bob, I hate to buzz your bubble, but I've heard other people say that before me and you started working together, because me and Levy started working together about when I started here."
Right.
And he goes, "Well, they stole it from me." And I go, "All right." So I could see he was passionate about it.
Yeah,
and
so
I kind of laid off. And then I heard Chappelle, and then Chappelle was going to be a guest on the show. And Levy said he's going to call in. I said, "Bob, please don't do that. You're not going to look great doing that."
And I think Bob was probably really pissed because the joke did well on Chappelle's show. Like, people thought it was really funny, but it was mostly because of the whole sketch and the lead up to it. And I don't think anybody believed it was completely original. You know, even Dave said he's not the first person to come up with that. Like, he says it's barbershop talk. But I'm sure he didn't think anybody would actually take credit for it or want to take credit for it. I mean, people use it all the time, and anybody could have come up with it. You know, it's not very creative. Like, also, Greg Fitzsimmons mentioned Joe Rogan, of course, had a similar joke in the early 90s, which I don't think he'd really want to take credit for. But Bob, he really wanted to take credit for his joke, and he didn't listen to what Artie had to say, even though Artie was trying to give him good advice by telling him not to bring it up. But the next time Dave Chappelle was on the Stern Show, Bob called in and brought it up to him, and Dave had the perfect response and just embarrassed Bob.
Hey, how you doing, Howard? Dave, I'm a big fan of yours, and I just wanted to know why one of my jokes actually ended up on your show one night.
Oh, really?
What is the joke?
I'm going to beat my blank like it owes me money. It was in one of the songs.
Oh, because you're a hack.
I'm a hack and you're taking my stuff.
I'm going to beat my blank like it owes me money. You wrote that?
Yes, I did write that, and I've been doing it for years, and it's been my opening line.
Oh, that's barbershop talk. And that's your opening line?
Yes. Well, it was on your show. I guess you liked it.
I must have seen you at a hole
Well, you were at Caroline's one night for the Nasty Show with some of your friends that were in the audience.
Yeah, I was. You're right. I lift material from. What's your name again?
What was that?
What's your name again?
Reverend Bob Levy, I was on the show with you a couple times.
Oh, Bob Levy.
Oh, Bob, that's you.
Yeah, I was going to say, is this the Reverend Bob?
Yeah.
Oh, look at Bob. You think Dave's taking your material?
No, I'm
Bob, I
saying
wouldn't
Dave. I'm saying his writers are dropping the ball and they're getting lazy.
Man, nobody
want to write
stole
I'll
that
write for
from
you.
you.
Dave says he did not steal from you.
I'm not saying it was him, but I'm saying it was probably one of his writers in the audience at the show, and they threw it in there.
You said I was in the audience stealing.
I know, you were at the show. You were at Caroline's. You were at the bar, and your friends came in. KC was there that night.
I promise you, Bob, nobody steals jokes on the show. I promise you. It's primarily me and one other dude. So
I mean, I've been doing that for a long time, and then all of a sudden it's on the show.
I don't know, man.
All right, Bob. Hey, Bob, what can I tell you? You guys
did a job.
I don't know. Maybe great minds think alike.
Right. All right, Bob, thanks.
You got it.
Reverend Bob Levy.
Jeez Louise, man. Gangbanging. Over, I beat my blank like it owes me money.
And then afterwards, I think Bob was kind of upset that Artie didn't back him up or defend him. But, I mean, this is exactly how Artie thought it was going to go. You know, that's why I told him not to bring it up. But, of course, Bob didn't listen. So then Artie kept giving him shit for it. And during a roast that Bob was hosting, Artie roasted him for it. And he got offended by it. You know, he's all sensitive about it. So Artie knew it was getting to him, but he just enjoys messing with him. So he brought it up again on the wrap-up show. And at that point, Bob was just done. And he ended up backing out of all the dates he was supposed to open for Artie because he thought Artie was hurting his career by continuing to bring this up. But I think Artie was just kind of annoyed that Bob didn't listen to him. And then also, after all this, Bob claimed another comedian stole another one of his jokes. And of course, it's a joke that has been around forever that I'm sure a bunch of people have come up with. So I'm sure at that point, Artie's just thinking, how does this guy not realize how ridiculous this all sounds? But then also, he definitely does just like messing with Bob and bringing this up to him because he knows it gets to him.
And Bob explains his situation, and Chappelle goes, "Oh, so you must be a hack." And I said to Bob, "I can't defend you because I happen to agree with him." And so I stayed quiet, and I think he was a little mad I didn't defend him more. But I said, "Chappelle's arguing my argument. I'm trying to be honest."
You told him not to do it.
I said, "Don't do it," and he sort of came off looking badly. And the first roast I was on, the Ronnie roast, you know, Bob's the host, and I re-brought it up, you know, with a couple of jokes, and the jokes got good laughs. They were, you know, they were funny, but he wasn't in the roast spirit. He was mad at me for doing that.
Right.
He thinks, I've said countless times, Bob is an amazing comic. He kills, he's funnier than me. He's one of the best comedians I've ever seen on stage, but with that, it's just an issue I have with him. And even in the roast, he didn't get into it. He's like, you know, in the roast, you hit
But maybe,
low
let me take Bob's side for a second.
He thinks it's going to cost him work. He thinks people are going to... And meanwhile, it doesn't.
Well, I don't even know about this. I mean, is he thinking that everybody's hanging on this and saying, yeah, he's just a hack and he...
I think Bob is probably thinking, why does Artie always have to bring this thing up? Why can't he just let it die?
And if you look at the context and how it was used on the Chappelle show, it's not flattering. It's not. It's a guy who's
right.
Also another thing.
Listen, Artie,
but there's another thing Levy had, which is similar. Richard Belzer in a roast did a joke about someone who said the only way
you would be funny.
The only way you'd be funny. The only way you'd have a funny bone in your body is if I f***ed you. Levy saw that on a roast, a big roast, and says, now Bells is ripping me off. And I said, Bob, really? You're going to claim you wrote that one too? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, I'm telling you, I wrote it. And then you go in your head, well, someone had to write these jokes, I guess. But if you went to Belzer, and the only time sort of that shit is allowed and fun, and even Gilbert will tell you, is at a roast. You know, that's when you could use those jokes. It's fun, you know, these old jokes that Dick Capri uses, you know. And I said, so now I'm going to, next time Bells is on the show, I'm going to call her. I'm like, Bob, please don't do that.
Right,
like,
don't embarrass him.
I can't just say how, I'm trying to help him, and he thinks I'm insulting him. So the Chappelle thing, he even got off kind of easy, but if this ever gets into a real debate, and I said, Chappelle's a big star, you know, it's like...
And I think Bob was being way too sensitive about it, but Artie even admits that he likes to get Bob worked up. You know, he likes getting under his skin, and he knows this gets to him, so he keeps bringing it up on air. And it's so funny because Artie keeps saying he feels bad about it, and he tries to apologize to him, and he says he wants Bob to do the shows with him and open for him. But then you could tell he just can't help himself at times, and he keeps making fun of Bob for basically being a failed comedian. Like somebody mentions that Bob already found some new shows to do instead of opening for Artie, and Artie makes a joke about it, you know, because nobody really believes that he was able to find another show that fast. And then he eventually calls in and Artie apologizes to him, but he said he already changed the dates, so Artie just keeps making fun of him.
I never agreed to do the Borgata with you yet, but
Okay.
So Levy called me, goes saying that he wasn't on the Borgata with you. I was thinking about doing it. He said he had another gig, so I said, yeah, I'll do
How
it.
did he get another gig so fast?
Oh, he gets gigs all the time.
Yeah?
Yeah.
There's a lot of firehouses around right now.
This isn't helping you already.
See, that's the thing. I mean,
I think every town has a firehouse.
That's right.
The issue Bob has,
Volunteer
So he
firehouse.
can work anytime.
you don't
They got an oyster clam bake night.
Oh, man.
He's gonna be pissed. I
He's
know.
gonna be mad.
I might
Bob,
throw-
do you accept Artie's apology, or are you not? Are you sticking to your guns and not doing the shows?
No, I booked over the shows.
Oh, come on, Bob.
In the same
You know
town,
what?
the same night.
Now you're being ridiculous. Now you're being ridiculous.
Look, it fucking, I don't, it feels like I can't fucking trust somebody. I don't like to fucking be around somebody like that. You know what I mean? I don't fucking do that to people.
You know, I'm sorry then. You know, because I've seen Bob kill so hard that people are barreled over laughing and they actually hit their head on the hose of the truck.
What truck is that?
Do it, Artie. In 5 years, you'll be fucking playing them.
No, I won't. I'll be dead in 5 years. Now, come on, you know that.
Bob,
Yeah, so Artie just couldn't help himself, and Howard was trying to mediate a little bit, but of course he wasn't making things much better. Like Howard brings up that Artie mentioned the reason he likes to make fun of Bob and try to say things that get to him is because he could have seen a situation where his career might have played out like Bob's if he didn't get some lucky breaks. And I think Artie said this to try to sympathize with Bob a little bit. Like at one point he said the only difference in their careers is he just had more luck, which everybody disagreed with him on, but he was definitely trying to be nice to Bob by saying this. But of course when Howard brings it up, it does not sound good. And Bob gets really offended by it, you know, because he's like, well, what's wrong with being me? What's wrong with my career? And Artie's like, oh, I wasn't trying to say that as an insult. You know, I was just saying there could have been a situation where I'd be struggling financially if I didn't get a couple lucky breaks.
I think it's because Artie has said it. He said it as early as this morning. Artie said, you know, if it wasn't for a couple of breaks that I got, I could end up being Bob Levy.
No, no, no.
You know what? It ain't too fucking bad being me, okay?
No, Bob. I didn't say it's so bad. I'm saying that, you know, he's a guy who, you know, has to work and get gigs, and you know, I could turn down gigs now because I've been lucky. And I'm saying I could easily have had that happen to me. I got a couple of good breaks, that's all.
You mean it could have easily happened to you that you'd be Bob Levy?
No, it could have happened to me where I have bigger money issues in my life. That's what I'm talking about.
I don't have any issues. I'm fucking happy with. That's all that fucking matters.
All right, fine.
I don't give a fuck.
Fine. That wasn't meant to be an insult. But I apologize for what I said yesterday. It was out of line on the wrap-up show. I'm being dead serious.
Artie, you did say there are plenty of firehouses where Bob can perform, but he doesn't work with you.
I was trying to be funny. But clearly, look, the king of the roast here clearly is sensitive. I mean, you know.
Isn't it a little weird, Artie?
And what makes this even funnier is now Dave Chappelle's building a comedy club out of an old fire station. So that would be perfect for Bob, but he needs to be careful. You know, I think Chappelle might be doing it to get him in there so he could steal more of his jokes. No, but this whole thing was a classic, and it led to a lot more. Like, there's a giant feud between Artie and some other comedians on the show because he called them the Hack Pack, which I'll probably cover soon, maybe over on Patreon. So if you guys enjoyed the video, if you like this kind of content, make sure you check it out. There's a ton of stuff up there. Like recently, I just talked about how Howie Mandel actually responded to one of my videos. So if you want to hear about that, or you want to keep up with everything going on in comedy, or hear about some of these old stories, make sure you check it out. I'll put a link in the description. Alright, so I'm sure most people have heard by now, Jake Paul and Mike Tyson are going to be fighting each other later this year on Netflix. And on Logan Paul's most recent podcast, he was talking about it. And he said before Jake accepted the fight, he was actually offered to fight Tyson as well, but not on Netflix and for less money. And he said he declined it because Tyson is old and senile.
Like at what point you can't, I don't know if you could say no. I said no to fighting Mike Tyson.
I'd say no.
I was offered it. And
You actually offered?
Yeah, I was offered it, but not on Netflix and not for a big ass bag. It was just like oh, this could be a real fight. Because I've been asked before. I'm sure you have too. Do you think you could beat Mike Tyson? And my answer was and will be yes.
Well, yeah,
I just think
now?
Yes, I just think he's too old, bro. That's crazy.
Oh, God,
he's senile.
The thing is, he'd be great for a round.
Maybe.
Yeah, so I understand there wouldn't be as much upside to fighting Tyson. You know, if you beat him, it's like, of course, he's an old man. And then if you lose, then you just be embarrassed. But this is coming from somebody who fought Dylan Dennis. I mean, obviously, that turned out to be a terrible decision. So I don't know why you'd accept that fight, but then turn down a fight with Mike Tyson. Like, he thinks there's no winning with the Tyson fight because he's old. There was no winning with that Dennis fight. You know, Dylan hadn't fought in 3 or 4 years, and he's not a boxer. I mean, at least Tyson is a boxer and one of the best of all time. Even if he is old, it'd still be pretty cool to say you beat Mike Tyson. But to say you beat Dylan Dennis, especially after how that fight went, is just kind of embarrassing. I mean, Logan probably doesn't even want anybody to mention his name anymore. So if Logan thought he could beat Tyson, you'd think he would have taken that fight. But what's funny is Jake was just on Aiden Ross's live stream recently, and he said that Logan never got an offer, and Jake and his team are actually the ones that reached out to Tyson for the fight.
Logan said he was offered to fight Mike Tyson, and he declined.
Yeah, which is also not true.
Oh, so Logan was not offered to fight Mike Tyson?
No.
Oh.
Because we're the ones that brought the deal to Mike Tyson.
Gotcha.
So I don't know why he would say that. Like, me and Most Valuable Promotions and my partner, Nikisa, struck a deal with Netflix and then went to other fighters to try to get them involved. And it started with, like, Tommy Fury. He wanted more money. There wasn't more money.
Yeah.
So then we went to Mike Tyson, and after like months of talking, got him to be down to fight. And so Mike Tyson wasn't offering people deals, so I don't know what he's talking about.
So why did Logan say that then? You think it's just because, like you said, he's around KSI, or do you think he's...
I don't know. I really don't know. But we were the ones offering people the deal to fight. So,
and people think he said that to try to take away from the fight or downplay it or just to make it about himself. You know, it's probably a combination of all that and KSI being there, because of course he kept trashing the fight as well and talking about Mike's age, and he's like, who's Jake gonna fight next? Muhammad Ali? And also Logan brought up how when he fought Floyd Mayweather, he could see the age getting to him, and he's like, oh yeah, dude, by round 8 he was huffing and puffing and I was just warming up. And I think he just sounds kind of delusional.
Fam, I noticed it with Floyd. I'm like a proper YouTuber boxer.
Yeah.
And when I was in the ring with 50-0 Floyd Mayweather, I noticed his fucking age.
Yeah.
How
old was he?
He was 44, dude. And huffing and puffing by round 8, I was like warming up.
Man, all that shit, bro. It's Mike Tyson. I'm here for it. I think it's just cool to put in the portfolio. I think people want to watch it, especially for free on Netflix.
And obviously Floyd wasn't in his prime during that fight, which I don't know why Logan would bring that up, because it kind of just takes away from it. You know, when people mention that he fought Floyd Mayweather, does he want them to say he fought an old Floyd Mayweather? And it's funny, Logan would say that he was just starting to warm up during that fight at round 8, and Floyd Mayweather was getting gassed. You know, if that fight went another 8 rounds, nothing would have changed. Also, if Logan thinks that the age thing is a big deal and it takes away from the fight, then in his next fight, how about we see him actually fight a boxer that's in their prime? I mean, even Tyson, that would have been a tougher fight than Dylan Dennis. You know, if you remember when Dylan posted his sparring footage, everybody was just laughing at it. Like, Tyson, even as a 57-year-old, looks way more intimidating than Dylan. You know, he just posted some footage for the first time in a while, and people in the comments were impressed. So I think Logan might be a little jealous of the fight. Also, I know at one point there were rumors of him possibly fighting Tyson, but I don't think he got an offer, you know, like Jake said. And then also he actually took that part out of the podcast once Jake exposed him and said, like, no, he never got an offer. Then Logan or somebody on his team ended up removing the part where he's talking about getting an offer, and now you can see there's just a cut in the podcast. So it seems like what Jake said is probably accurate.
Live sporting events. And bro, for both Mike and Jake, the bag. Like, at what point you can't, I don't know if you could say no.
Has there been any videos that have come out past the 4 year, you know, that 4 year ago video that's been getting...
So it sounds like Logan probably did make that up, you know, to be like, yeah, I got the offer, but why would I want to fight some senile old man? Which, again, I know even if Jake wins, it's not going to be the most impressive thing ever, but still, it'll be a lot better than Logan winning against Dylan Dennis, which I'm sure Logan knows. You know, I'm sure he regrets taking that fight. I think he even admitted it right afterwards. So he probably wishes he would have fought Tyson instead, even though Tyson would have been a much tougher fight. But if he won, it would have been a much more satisfying victory, obviously. So that's about it for this video. Just a quick one today. But if you want any more content, I post a lot of stuff on Patreon. There's a ton of stuff to go through. So if you enjoy this channel, if you enjoy the content, I highly recommend it. You know, it's definitely worth it. So make sure to check it out. I'll put a link in the description. And then hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you at the next video. Alright, so it looks like Steve-O is pissed at me because I thought him deciding to get a boob job was desperate and depraved. But, I mean, somebody needed to be honest with the guy, and that was my initial reaction, and I'm sure that was a lot of people's reaction. Like, seeing Steve-O at 50 years old and 15 years sober with a dick tattoo on his forehead, and then hearing him announce he's going to get a boob job, I was like, how's this guy somehow more desperate and depraved than ever? Because also he still has a successful career. You know, it's not like he needs to do these really extreme stunts to try to stay relevant. Like between the podcast, the YouTube channel, touring, specials, merch, everything he sells, you know, he's making good money. But still he feels the need to do his most insane stunt yet, which I kind of respect a little bit just because he's sticking to his roots. You know, this is what he's known for. He's still committed to doing crazy shit. But I don't know if he's ever done anything this controversial somehow, and that's why he can't decide whether or not he should do it, because he's really worried about how people react to it, which is kind of funny that Steve-O is all concerned about who he's going to offend. I mean, I feel like stirring up controversy is just part of the stunt. Like, if this wasn't crazy, if it wasn't shocking, then nobody would care, it wouldn't get attention. And Steve-O knows the attention he'll get from this probably won't be very positive. You know, obviously there will be some people that just find it funny and be like, it's Steve-O, this is what he does. But I think most people will probably just be kind of cringing from it. But I don't think that's really what Steve-O should be worried about. I mean, of course, people are going to think that. That shouldn't be anything new for him. But I think what he should be more prepared for is the potential backlash from this. You know, the people who are going to get upset and offended by it. Because odds are that's going to happen, and it will help bring more attention to it. You know, the more polarizing this is, obviously the more attention will be brought to it. But I don't know if Steve-O is really ready for that, because he really cares what people think. And if people start calling him transphobic or something, I don't know if he'll handle that very well. And it seems like he didn't really start thinking about this until like the day before he was supposed to get the surgery, which apparently the anesthesiologist backed out at the last second. But he said the day before he talked to some trans person about it, and they brought up all these concerns that he had never even thought about. Like, he mentioned one of the pranks he plans on doing once he gets the implants, and I would imagine trans people aren't going to be too happy about this. And Steve-O really seems to care about trans rights and issues and stuff, so if they try to cancel him and label him transphobic, I don't think they'll handle it very well.
Some of the hidden camera pranks where I find different ways to completely cover my face and head from the shoulders up. And from the shoulders down, I'm waxed, smooth, like airbrushed with zero tattoos. Curled up. I've lost like almost 20 pounds to be as petite as I possibly can. And then like in these different like kind of high pressure situations, I like pull off the what's covering my head. And there's a high pressure reaction in each of these scenarios. That was a sensitive piece because, like the idea. I'm trying to word this correctly, but there's a sensitivity in the transgender community that what they're trying to do is trick people into. And like to put people in situations where you trick them into being gay. And
it's called the movie The Crying Game.
I didn't think of it like that.
And it's crazy because this could play out in so many different ways. Like, I could also see conservatives canceling him and then maybe trans people defending him. So I kind of want this to happen just to see how things play out and see how people react to it. But I don't know if Steve-O will actually go through with it. I mean, I believe he'd get a boob job, but I just don't think he wants to hear what people have to say about it. Which he could just ignore. You know, he could just avoid Reddit and reading comments about himself, but he has trouble with that.
Because I've gone back and forth on it, and I reached out and said, you know, I feel scared because I'm a sensitive guy, and the idea of a lot of people saying really mean things about me scares me. And my friend said, the one friend said, what are you worried that they're going to say? That you're an idiot? You know, like, what else is new?
Yeah.
You know, like, do you really think that it's going to be shock and outrage that Steve-O's gone and done something, like, incredibly stupid? Like, that's who you are.
It's your brand.
What you do.
And it's funny he says that because he also says he's trying to push things too far and he knows this is a nuclear move. And I mean, a lot of the attention from this is going to come from the shock and outrage. You know, if people are just like, oh, it's Steve-O, it's another one of his stunts, it's not that big of a deal, this is what he does, then the stunt isn't going to work as well because then people won't be talking about it. It's not going to catch people's attention. I mean, he kind of needs this to be polarizing and controversial because also if it's not, then people could just be like, you know, he's doing all this for attention. Who cares? Let's not even give it to him. You know, this story needs to turn into more than just Steve-O got a boob job. Like Steve-O, he talked about how he's trying to make a statement about body autonomy. And after he talked to that trans person, he realized it's actually really important for him to go through with this stunt.
Like, I was very, very clear that my intention's not to hurt anybody's feelings or be disrespectful on any level. But now, coming away from that conversation, part of me felt like I knew that I was, you know, making a statement of body autonomy and with my heart in the right place, but I almost feel like it's actually important to do this.
And Steve-O was supposed to have it done by this episode, and Bert was all excited to be the first person to see him. Like, he skipped a Two Bears episode just to do this podcast. But I guess Steve-O's anesthesiologist backed out at the last second because it's already become too controversial, apparently. And Steve-O claims this has rattled the plastic surgery community, which is kind of hard to believe that all of a sudden these people are going to be like, oh no, this is too far. I don't know if we should be doing this. I mean, compared to what some other people do to themselves, it's kind of ridiculous to draw the line here.
Oh, the anesthesiologist backed out. Now, like, to be clear too, it's nuclear on so many levels. The position we're in right now, all of this press, has completely rattled, I'm told, the entire plastic surgery community as a whole.
Oh,
like
that fucking high level of ethics they have. Those statues, those pillars of our society who have been fucking up women's faces legit.
And the legal representation has insisted now that I be drug tested. So that they have some basis in front of the medical board that I'm going into it of sound, mind, and body, or whatever. Just sound.
It would be easier if you just transitioned, because no one questions that.
Yeah.
They're like, no, his body, his choice.
Yeah, the reason why they wanted him, because we framed it as a stunt, so that's why it was more of an issue.
But Steve-O said this all made him realize he wants to do it even more. Like, he really is committed to this. But I mean, it sounds like he goes back and forth on it every day, and he's trying to get everybody's opinion on it. And, you know, he's talked about it quite a bit now publicly because he probably wants to get people's reaction and tell people beforehand, like, just so you know, I'm about to do something crazy. But I feel like the more he talks about it, the less it seems like it's really worth doing, because the bit would have worked much better if he never announced it and nobody knew about it, and then all of a sudden he just had boobs. You know, people would be so confused. Like, some people would probably wonder if it's a stunt or if he's transitioning. But now, since he's already talked about it, people know it's a stunt, and he plans on having them removed in 4 or 5 months. So I don't know if it's really worth doing at this point. I don't know if it was ever really worth doing, especially if he's not committed to it. Like, if he's still worried about what people are going to think of him. Like, he was pretty upset about the video I made about it, which is understandable. But if you're going to be going through with this, you're going to be hearing much worse than that. Like, that video is probably nothing, and he's going to be hearing it from a ton of different people. But also, my video might have stung a little bit more because last year Steve-O admitted he watches my channel and he gave me a shout out, which I appreciate and I thanked him for, but I can't let that influence who I talk about on my channel. And it's not personal, you know, it's not just him. I've had other people give me shout outs and I continue talking about them. So I try not to think about that too much, and this is a topic I would cover on my channel, you know, and I'm sure most people are going to cover it if Steve-O actually goes through with it. And that's what Bert kind of tells him here. Like, first he brings up my channel because it sounds like Steve-O told him everything that happened. And Bert's like, see, that's what happens when you give a cat milk. They're always going to come back. I think implying that I'm a homeless cat. And then also, I think he's trying to say that the reason I made the Steve-O video is because he gave me a shout out and I thought he'd do it again or something, or I was trying to get a reaction out of him. I don't know. But then I do get a reaction out of him and he's like, F that guy, if he's trying to hate on me. But then Bert is like, well, if you get the boob job, it's open season, which Steve-O's probably thinking, shit, yeah, that's true.
Weird part about giving a cat milk is the cat comes back. So when you go to Too Lazy to Try and you give them the milk, then they go, this is now a business model. If I make more fun of him and it's good, he'll share it and I'll get more views.
I can also say, fuck that guy. If he's trying to bash me,
this would have been fucking open season, like a tit job. But that's also the other part of it is that.
Yeah, so I wasn't trying to get a reaction out of him with that video, but it's pretty funny to beef with Steve-O over a boob job. Like, that's hilarious. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments, if you think you should go through with it, or if you think I'm going too hard on him. I don't know. And then make sure you also go check out my Patreon account. There's a ton of extra content on there. I've been talking a lot about Kill Tony and Tony's ego getting out of control and how crazy some of the shit has been on that show. Like, there's a lot going on, a lot of drama. So if you're interested in that, or if you want to hear about the time Tim Dillon humbled Whitney Cummings, or Tim Dillon versus Airbnb, or versus Anthony Jeselnik, or the degeneracy of Ari Shaffir, or the time Patton Oswalt took a picture of Dave Chappelle, or just a ton of other stuff, over 80 videos. There's a lot to go through. If you're interested, make sure you check it out. Put a link in the description.